I will try to maybe compensate the time and speak less, but I will try also to be more controversial a little bit, because we tend all the time to treat the issue of development as a product that has to be the same everywhere. And we say that this region needs this and that. But what if the people of the region right now, they need something else? Which means they need to build a system that is totally different. And if we follow the news and the media, I'm not sure that any of the things that has been raised here is really coming in the focus of the debate, particularly in a country like Egypt. The question of jobs and fighting corruption, maybe it's coming because of the previous regime, or the other issues that we think, that the people of this region should think about. And as I'm coming from an international organization and following actually this region for at least 15 years and working since 2002 in the Arab Human Development Report, which actually was based on the premise that development should, be the same everywhere, I found that sometimes we are wrong when we think like that. And there are some people, they may be thinking differently and thinking about having a developmental model that may not really looking to integrate in globalization. So the premise that we think that the region has to do that to integrate in the global economy may not be true. And if you read a paper that was introduced to the G8 at Deauville which was produced by the IMF, that the region is missing to be integrated in the global economy, I doubt, that maybe the new regimes that will be emerging in this region will be trying to do that. Particularly that we have to look at the status of the global economy. And also the model of the market economy itself is coming under a lot of attack in the industrialized countries itself. So we have to be very cautious when we try to look at the future. And to think also that maybe the countries of this region will try to adopt certain models that may be already there in their neighboring countries, and will try to be more inward-looking and less, and maybe integrated regionally rather than globally. So I will not try to get into the way that we used to do is in the next 40 years we need this and that, because I'm not sure that the new leaders who will be coming will be trying to follow the same as we're saying. Of course, we see the challenges if you have a high level of unemployment, but it proved, that some countries has been living with that for a long time, and the reason why certain regimes collapsed, it was not only because of unemployment. There were other reasons that actually led to the collapse of these regimes. And that brings me to the crux of what I would like to say is the relationship between what we call the economic and political. Most of the countries in the region, and particularly the Arab republics, they began their developmental model based on a certain premise, which is we can achieve economic growth, but we hold the political development as much as we can. So, which means, that we can do that for a long time. And they were much more in their thinking similar to an Asian model, but without the efficiency of an Asian model. So, which means that these countries were trying to grow and industrialize. They invested in education and health, and if you review the last few decades in most of the Arab countries, they will find a lot of improvement in education and health, and even in some countries regarding the conditions and empowerment of women. But the real problem was all the time connecting the politics with the economics. The political sphere has all the time under the control of the government, and even all the attempts that have been done during the last few decades to open up or organize elections, it went and continued to be the same as before, as when the state was established in the 50s. The state controls completely the political sphere. And that, of course, affected the economic sphere, because when most of the Arab republics, particularly the middle income, began their reform in the 70s and the 80s under the pressure, because they have deficits and they would like, of course, to get out of their indebtedness, and they were obliged also to go for a more liberalization of their economy. These countries and the leaders, actually, they tried also to control the market economy, because the market economy, if you give the space for the private sector, you will have more, actually, centers of power outside the government. So the way that it has been done is nationalization even of the market economy, that the business community is very close to the government itself. And this relationship that before we used to have heads of the public sector, after that they are called businessmen. It is the same thing, same relationship, and rather than having, you know, the separation and the independence of the economic sphere and the political sphere, the government tried to collapse everything under its control. How the new regimes will be able to decipher this? Imagine yourself a minister coming in, in a ministry that has been controlled by this kind of understanding for the last 50 or 60 years. How you begin reforming the public sector or the public administration from inside. We shouldn't be very enthusiastic about that, because we still have a huge public administration that without reforming this public administration and providing it with a new vision, any reform will not work in the future. So who will be taking actually this huge task in order to synchronize whatever we have been saying here, and this will be translated into laws and policies, and also which will achieve results. The real problem that any new regime will find is having a huge, as I said, public administration, which is the machinery of the state itself, how this machinery will produce a new system while it has been working for the last 60 years, conditioned by a certain system. And that applies, of course, not only on economic and social issues, but take the security sector, take the army, and take also other, the intelligence, all this network, how it will work in order to deliver the new vision that we are talking about here, and how even they will work together. Some of them, they will be trying to hold the government, to the old system, and some will be trying to pull it for a new future. So we will witness actually a kind of conflict within the state itself, within the new state that we will see after the elections, as we have seen in Tunisia and Egypt. What kind of coherence we will have inside the new governments when you have a government is elected and composed of different political parties, and political parties, there is no common ground that actually is connecting them, unless we will find a government of one color. And in that respect, I don't think that we have achieved that much progress in approaching democracy. If we'll have a government of one color, then we will find again, a new system that is trying to force a certain understanding and a certain ideology on the people themselves. So I think when we say in transition, that's true, but this transition, how much time it will take, and when these countries will reach a new state of stability that is based on an open system and a rotation of power. It is not clear until now how much time this transition will take place. But if you try to find some clues of what will happen, the process of drafting the constitutions in both Egypt and Tunisia, of course in Tunisia, and the process will begin soon after the elections of the Constituent Assembly, and hopefully in Egypt we'll have peaceful elections by the end of this month. But this process will reveal what we would expect after that, because the debate during this time will reveal what kind of policies and what kind of directions that both of these countries will take. I would like also to add something at the end, that when we try to identify the challenges facing the region, we focus sometimes on the lack of democracy, or we have the question of unemployment, or what they have to do in having, the business environment. But there are hidden challenges that most of the time we disregard, which may be related to areas that political scientists and economists may not look at it. This region actually facing a big problem regarding water scarcity. And all these issues, if we don't look at it in depth, and if this region will not find solutions for it, all what we are talking about will be turned actually into conflict. Take the situation in Yemen, which is a country that will face and is already facing water scarcity. All the Arab countries in the Gulf, which we consider are out of the discussion because they have enough resources, they depend almost between 80 and 100% on water desalination. Luckily, they have money because of the oil, but if they don't have money, I mean, you can expect environmental refugees. This happened actually in Somalia, and even happened a few years ago in Syria, in the northeast of Syria. So these are also hidden or unnoticed, or nobody is talking about it, but it will affect the future of this region. And we have noticed actually the beginning of that, as I said, in a country like Somalia, in Darfur, and in Syria, and actually in South Iraq, where the water flow coming from the north, from Turkey and Syria, actually is getting less and less, and water salination in the south, in the land of the south of Iraq, actually is increasing, and which means that the land, agricultural land in the south of Iraq could not be used. So I would like just to end my remarks by saying that we have, not all the time think that we have people on the other side thinking exactly like us. The second point is we have to identify what the new regimes will think alike, and there will be some clues, as I said, in the process of drafting a new constitution. We will find the discussion during this time will reveal what kind of new regime coming. And the last thing, don't forget the environment that this region lives in. It is an arid region with a very fast demographic increase. So when we think about full employment, it is something that will never happen. And creating these jobs will never happen, because you don't have an agricultural sector like many other countries in the developing regions that can absorb all these people coming to the labor market. The solution will be all the time migration within the region or other outside. The agricultural sector in Egypt is almost saturated. The same thing in Morocco, the same thing in Algeria and Syria. So where all these jobs will come, unless we'll have a very fast industrialization, which I doubt will happen in the near future, that may not be achieved. And we may find more instability inside these countries and also inside the Middle East. Thank you.
Thank you very much.